greatest panel about this AI topic that everybody cares about. So here we go. First and foremost, myself, my name is Xiang Lin. I am the partner of Acorn Summit Ventures. We're a fund, and we're an early stage fund. I am personally very interested in early stage AI companies. So if anybody is in that field, want to get connected, introduce very smart engineers and scientists, or early stage teams, please come and find me later. First, my guest, Shel Israel. He is the writer of 7 technology disruption books, and the last one is about the fourth transformation, how augmented reality and artificial intelligence would change the world. I think that's roughly the right topic, right? Thank you. And he's also the CEO of a Ghostwriter team. And the next one, she's a real professor. She's a tenured professor in UC Santa Cruz. Her name is Xiang, and she started her own company making chatbot. That's, again, an example of female founders and also the most tech-savvy person on this whole panel. Sorry about guest.
I'll accept that. That's a dubious distinction on this panel.
And then we have Carrie.
Lefebvre. Carrie Lefebvre.
All right, his last name is
French.
Yes, that's French. So Carrie works for a resilient system, and he is the senior director of North American sales. So he comes here with a lot of stories. Some we just discussed, he cannot disclose, but some he can share, and nobody will kill him after. So that's what we're going to hear. We have Tony Perkins. He is the founder of Red Herring. Many people heard about that. And then he found so many companies later on. The latest one is Kryptonite. Sorry. Kryptonite with a C. And he is going to tell us about what he thinks, compare AI and cryptocurrency as technology, and how that would impact people's life, blockchain, technology, and cryptocurrency. Last but not least, let's take a break. Farshid Sabet, he is the one that we used to work together in SanDisk way back when. And after that, so we went on different ways, and he touched 2 startups. Both were sold to big companies in a very elegant way, a graceful exit. And now he is the managing director running Intel's computer vision chip division. Should I say more? Okay, we'll let the guest say more later on. Well, the first question for everybody here, and I want to start with Farshid on your side, is there are many use cases of artificial intelligence and big data. And what are the most exciting ones that you have seen in the field? Or exciting, interesting, or controversial, whatever. What are the most interesting stories that you've seen people using AI?
First of all, thanks for the organizers and Xiang for inviting us. In my position, I have an enviable position to work with so many smart companies, innovative folks who are developing applications. My division does, at Intel right now, we develop products that goes into any kind of applications, develop AI, computer visions. So I have the privilege to see all sorts of companies. So Carrie is going to talk about surveillance. I'm not going to talk about that, which is very interesting to hit the safe, smart cities and help with the congestions and all sorts of other applications. But for me, particularly the health area and applications of AI in health is very interesting. All my families are physicians. And what I've seen a lot of work that you know in medical imaging. It takes a lot of doctors with the specialties, very expensive equipments to be able to read these charts and scans. One of the specific ones that comes to my mind is glaucoma detection. You know, this is a very painful disease. A few years ago, medical technologists developed this innovative technologies with a laser-based biopsy to be able to create a computer vision image of the eye, of the retina. And based on that, the doctor will take a look at these images and determines whether the person has glaucoma or not. In the last few years, researchers at Stanford and other universities particularly have developed with AI, based on the data sets, the number of patients, accumulation of the doctors from the various different regions, geographies, have developed models that they can detect glaucoma in patients or lack of, if they're negative, or if somebody is prone to glaucoma for detections. More accurate than some of the most trained doctors from Stanford can. And these are examples of the great, we see the examples on bone density in cancer detections and so forth. So the medical area excites me very much.
Great. I just want to make sure everybody understands that I am not a technical person, but I have been covering the world of startup innovation for the last 30 years. That sounds like a long time. But anyway, I'm going to make some very basic comments. The first of which is, I think we are officially in the third wave of the commercialization of the internet. So the first wave was driven by just putting people on the internet. And then we had some e-commerce that was pioneered obviously by Amazon and eBay. But if you really think about it, there weren't a lot of huge companies. There was a lot of money invested in that period, but not a lot of big companies came out of it. The second wave, generally speaking, I believe was driven by the socialization of the internet, which took form in the SaaS, putting data where everybody could share it at a much cheaper price than the old days, and then social networks, the sharing economy, just moving the internet as more of an interactive, socialized platform. The third wave, the good news is I think that is going to be dramatically driven by blockchain and crypto technology as well as artificial intelligence. I was very pleased to see that my dear friend Dixon Dole put blockchain on his little chart, but it was a subcategory there, Dixon. I think it's a little bit bigger than that. And interestingly, what was number one on Dixon's list was cybersecurity, of which I think that blockchain will be a major solution for that problem. So I'll just give you a very basic example. What blockchain is is a database really driven by a smart contract, and then it's let go, and it ends up being a trusted network because it has no central administrator. So if you just take a look at, say, storage, in the future, you'll distribute your content, your data across multiple blockchains, and so that'll make it a lot more secure because someone hacks one network, he will only get a piece of that information. I'll tell one anecdote and then move on to the next guest here. Peter Thiel, who we all know as the founder of PayPal, and then Palantir, and the only guy in Silicon Valley that spoke at the Republican convention, and then got run out of town to LA. But he's a good friend, and he, interestingly, was an intern for me for my first magazine, which was called Upside. He made the comment that, to him, artificial intelligence equals communism, and that blockchain and crypto equal libertarianism. So I'm going to let you think about that, what that might mean. I 100% agree with it. I am a full-on member of the blockchain revolution, and the coolest thing about the blockchain revolution, which I've written about, you can check on Medium at Tony Perkins, and it is that the blockchain revolution has no leader on purpose. And here you go.
Thank you. Do you see blockchain and AI growing at the same rate?
Well, I think, I like I was trying to say, and you guys are smarter than I am, but I definitely believe in artificial intelligence as an engine for a lot of the applications that will end up. Because remember, blockchain is just, we'll see millions of new blockchain applications that will help groups of people be able to interact with each other, but there's going to be a lot of data going on, and in that regard, that's where artificial intelligence plays a central role.
Sure, I can see where they go hand in hand. Hi everyone, my name's Kerry Lefebvre. I work for a local company out of Santa Clara called Resilient, but I'm very happy to be here because I've been working in this industry for about 20 years, and this is an example of where we need your help. We're an industry who's kind of lost its way a little bit, only because we've grown so large and so complex that AI is really our final hope for solving a lot of the problems that we've reached today. You guys remember the VCR. Well, when I started in the industry, the VCR was still being used. I remember visiting a casino in Vegas, and they had racks of VCRs, and many people that their only job was to go up and down the racks and replace the VHS tapes as fast as they could. And then the DVR came out, the digital video recorder. And that was exciting. That was right when I had come into this. I was still studying to be an architect in college, but when the DVR, the digital video recorder came out, it got my attention. I was excited. I'm kind of a geek. And I saw this as an opportunity that I wanted to pursue as a career instead of an architect. The megabyte was still a big word. Ooh, mega, all right, thousands of bytes. And then gigabyte. And today we're talking peta, and it's very soon expected that we're going to be talking in the zettabyte realm. Now, video surveillance represents actually a significant portion of that, what we call the data sphere, all the data in the world being recorded right now as we speak. A big portion of that, somewhere between 20 and 25% of that data being recorded on all the hard drives across the world is video surveillance drive. And you know what? We don't look at 99, 98% of that video that's recorded. As my industry progressed into the digital video recorder and then the network video recorder, so it went from a digital recorder, which just did its thing without a VHS tape, but it recorded onto a hard drive in a computer, but it was still an island. And then the network video recorder came out, another big thing. That came out like 5 years after the digital video recorder. And people saw the camera as this panacea to solve all their problems. You have a city with crime in certain areas, put a camera up. You have a down to the personal level. I don't trust my babysitter, so I'm going to put a camera inside of a teddy bear and put it in my infant's room. Even that data was rarely being accessed. And why? Because we don't have time to watch 8 hours of video at a time. So today we're at the precipice where AI is finally starting to enter into my industry in a big way. The US has been more reticent to adopt some of these new AI tools. But we can no longer, as an industry, just keep throwing more and more cameras. Look at London, look at any city, Phoenix, the city of Phoenix. They put speed cameras everywhere. They pulled them all out because they didn't have enough eyeballs to look at the information. AI for us, the surveillance industry, represents a new chance for us to start to dig through that data and pull out actionable intelligence. And what's funny is it's been developing AI in our industry for about 10 years, but only recently has it become a mainstream event. And a guy who installs a camera in his office who's looking for theft from a cash register, all of a sudden he realizes he's not only catching the thief that's stealing the extra $20 out of the cash register, but he's also finding out who stole his coffee cup and who parked in the handicapped and shouldn't have been. And we need a way to digest this. So I'm very excited to hear today because representing the video surveillance industry, because we need your help. We need investment. There's much potential in this realm. And yeah, that's where I come from.
Do you mind share the story about the university case?
Sure. Absolutely. I can keep it quick, too. I know I can tend to be a little long-winded. So like I said, let's picture higher education, okay? Many universities and schools, they have a responsibility to protect their students and their staff. So they put in all these cameras. They just throw cameras at it, put more and more cameras out there. Again, a human being cannot watch a whole wall of cameras. It's scientifically proven. We lose track of what's going on. So there are new analytics out there that are not rules-based, what we call forensic. In a forensic environment, we go in and we say, if someone goes from here to here, we want to know about it. If someone goes, if a car is going this way but not that way, we want to know about it. Those analytics have been around for a while. The new AI that is out is not rules-based. It's called real-time. Real-time AI is when a camera memorizes the scene it's looking at. And it starts to understand what's normal and what's not. You know, could include a group of kids, maybe even if we're watching a school, some rowdy kids in the quad. But it will start to learn what the difference is between a congregation of students and a fight that's about to break out. There's one particular story that just happened within my company. We had an installation in Australia. And it was a higher education school, and they had thousands of cameras and a huge video walls with 4 or 5 people watching it. Well, they have a camera over here that, a monitor over here that just pops up incidents coming from their AI analytics. And it popped up this image of a kid walking across the quad. And at first glance, even the operators, all professional police and law enforcement, it didn't look unusual. It was just another student walking with a backpack. Only this student was walking in a place that most students didn't walk. He was walking kind of perpendicular to the sidewalk. He had his backpack on his front of his belly instead of on his back. So the police officers had become so accustomed to trusting AI that they sent out a car. It turns out that guy had 2 9mm pistols and a knife in that bag, and he was getting ready to go commit a crime. Now, I hate to use such a horrible anecdote, but this is the state of the world we're in. And we have a system in place now, that being the millions of cameras out there, that are not being used efficiently. And AI, like in this incident, represents an opportunity to start capturing that data and doing stuff with it, saving lives. So.
So as an AI scientist, I tend to do things that's use case agnostic. On the other hand, we provide the platform for other people to empower citizen developers, people who don't know AI to build it. That gets me to see a lot of very interesting use cases. For every people who use our platform to build the AI ability, it's very exciting for them. For example, I have seen people trying to build personalized medicine, people who build school filtering system that detected suicide alerts. And I also have seen people who build virtual assistant to help homeless people in San Francisco. And there are so many use cases. I think the creativity is not among the AI research scientists like me. I'm not very good at building good use cases. It's in the hands of the people who understand the pain point and the problems. And all the cases I see are very exciting.
There's a split vote. 2 people answered the question being asked about use cases and 2 did not. I would compete with Tony because I'm sure I'm less technologically sharp than he is.
Was I one of the 2 that didn't answer the question?
Yeah.
I say what I want.
Okay. So I'm the swing vote, and this is, thank God we're not the Supremes, right? I'm going to go somewhere in between. I think the importance of AI is not in the applications, because it's going to be in every application, in health, in education, in fintech, in productivity, in entertainment, when you walk down the street, when your eyes hit something on the shelf. And I think that it is so far along in so many ways that there is no stopping it. AI is a phenomenon that we don't know that ultimately brings humans and machines more close together. Is this a good thing? Well, if you're currently a paraplegic and you now have an exoskeleton and you can operate it with brain waves because your hands and feet don't work, that's pretty good for humanity. On the other hand, if you're collecting data for an insurance company who discovers that an employee that they're covering has cancer and the employer finds out before the employee does, then that's not a good thing. That's really where my focus is, because you can look at what it can do for training. You can look at what it's doing to all of us on Facebook. For those of you who have not read Zuck's book, please go out and buy it tomorrow. It's by Roger McNamee, one of the most credible people I know, and most connected in the Valley as well. And he kind of describes how the algorithm came to rule. And it isn't that Facebook or Google or anyone else is evil. They're in the business of producing returns for stockholders. They should be. But it happens that we spend more time on Facebook when we're divided than when we're together. And the implications of that, when you're talking about 2 billion people in 184 countries, get kind of scary. And it can make any two people disagree, because we all enter into what Eli Pariser once called the filter bubble, another book that scared me early in my life. And the implications to society, well, we get into, you're going to ask us about employment later? Okay, then I'll shut up and hand you the microphone.
That's actually, so that's actually what I think it's an unavoidable question, is whether or not this wave of AI replacing people who are answering customer support, who are swapping tapes, or
Looking at cameras.
or looking at cameras. So this is a wave of employment impact. Do you think this time we're going to be able to absorb it, or it's going to be the new thing that we have to don't know the beast?
Absorb it, yeah. But is it a good thing or not? I think the answer is yes. Everything that's happening that is good.
Sorry, please clarify what means yes. It means.
I'm trying to.
Okay.
Everything that I can think of that's happening with technology right now, which is a good thing, is driven by AI. And everything I know which scares hell out of me is driven by AI. Whether I like it or not, it is going to go forward. People earlier today were talking and says, should we create new jobs? Well, who is we? Companies, why would they create new jobs when their job is to become more efficient, more profitable? Governments, be serious. I'm not a libertarian, but I think we can be joined at the hip on this one. We don't create jobs. I get all choked up. Entrepreneurs create jobs. Economic opportunity creates jobs. Doing something that pisses you off because it's inefficient and is ripping you off creates jobs. Governments don't do it. And I have never been in a business meeting where somebody's sitting around saying, well, we can raise the employment level here so that the world is a better place. That isn't how it works, and it never will work that way. Where are we going? I think we're going into frightening times. We've gone into frightening times before. I get so choked up. Technology has been the solution for the last 50 years. Will technology be the solution next? I hope so.
So I want to add, I actually have seen cases new jobs were created. For example, our virtual assistant is handling Lyft customer service, right? Once our virtual assistant can handle 90% of the customer service request, and then they get more human agents, they say, instead of fire them, they actually put those people in to handle security-based issues. So if you have security-based concerns, the car driver has problem and so on, then you get much better treatment by the company. right? So that the service level gets improved, customer satisfaction gets improved. So you generally are freeing up human to do things human should do. Instead, like before people in customer service, they are doing things more like robots should do, like more. And 50% of people will resign their job in 1 year because the humans were doing what robots were doing jobs. But now more humans are moved into the job category. It's more human-centric.
For me, it's the answer to that question comes down to privacy. If you think about it, video surveillance is the epitome of privacy. In a perfect world, for the police, they want to know every little thing you're doing at every single time. We are on a path right now where we're walking, in my opinion, blind through a darkened room, where we're going to have to, all of us are going to have to find that division between privacy and, I told my father early on in my video surveillance career what I do, and he said, you work for Big Brother. And I said, well, I like to say I work for Little Brother too. And he says, well, my father said, more cameras the better. If you're doing what you should be out there, then you have nothing to worry about. But, maybe there will come a time, 1776 there was, maybe there will come a time when it is important that we are not being surveilled all the time. In public is one thing, but there needs to be a boundary. I'm a full supporter of that. In fact, I'm scared to death of how far the technologies that I sell could go. But I think there is a happy medium. I do feel that, but we're going to go way past it, and then there's going to be pushback, and then the center will find itself. That's why I was glad to see, we had him on the team today, because he's kind of you're part of the privacy aspect of it all. Yeah.
Great. I'll probably not answer the question again. Thanks, Shel, for thinking on me. One of the godfathers of venture capital.
I didn't answer the question either.
Oh, good. Oh, that was your trick. One of the godfathers of venture capital, Don Valentine, said that the only question that matters when he was looking at a deal was, who cares? Roger McNamee, as Shel referred to, good friend, had another spin on that, and he said that consumers always end up getting what they want, okay? And so when I was a kid, I wanted a Star Trek phone. And guess what? In 2004, Steve Jobs gave it to me. The only thing this can't do is beam me up. The point is that when we look at where the world's going, you have to look at what people want. And it's a big discussion, but I'd encourage you to look at a Gallup poll on trust. And at the top of the list in trust, one of the few institutions that are trusted are military, number one, small business, which makes my heart go pitter-patter, and then the police force. The only one that is the bottom of the pile is Congress, and then just above that is mainstream media, right? So to answer my challenge, what this really means to me is that people are increasingly, especially the new generation, are no longer trust institutions. They no longer trust middle people. And I think it's because of the smartphone that we have peer-to-peer. We can just access everything with our phone, and we don't think Citibank or we think Venmo or et cetera, et cetera. So the reason I'm all about blockchain is because it is a decentralizing power. Okay, and the reason that it helps with privacy, which like security, its model is to distribute. No central administration, and the individuals can, go onto these applications. They have the key to the information that they own. They can transact peer-to-peer, and they can actually distribute, a lot of their information, medical records or whatever, across multiple blockchain applications. So when you think about that, if you think of our last presidential election, the two leading candidates were Bernie Sanders, I guess it was Hillary, but Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump were populist candidates. So that fits this trend, okay? And when you think about China, okay, they are anti-populist. They are centralized control. That's why they're investing so much money into artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is about centralization and control of information. And the blockchain is like libertarianism or freedom or populism, because it's distributed and it has, you know, and it's ideal, which I believe is the idea. It offers the fulfillment of the original internet dream, which is just peer-to-peer distributed access to content and people. So with that, here's my friend.
A lot of great thoughts. I don't want to give a glib answers. Just to 2 weeks ago, Yuval Harari was in Stanford. Some of you probably heard him, and somebody asked the question, all the great technologies Kerry's talking about, what about if these technologies were in the hands of Stalinist Soviet Union, or Nazis had it? What would have been the implications? I'm an optimist. I wanted to tell you, I look at it from the optimist lens. Perhaps it's very shallow. What I see the impact of some of these technologies, actually, we have seen in the last few years, some major industries get disrupted. And look at the pockets of, look at a country such as Finland. Largest employer was Nokia, and that industry was decimated. But we don't see unemployment in that country per se, because of the strong foundation of education, I believe, support of government. I believe that does help. Also, very free-spirited entrepreneurship that actually created industries that actually are replacing a lot of that. We see the similar things in Korea and Japan. And right now, when I work with a lot of the Chinese companies, many of you guys are much more familiar than I am. China is going through a massive transformation into AI. Alibaba putting computer vision AI into all sorts of factories, but they use it for productivity. They use it for employment health. And I'm not trying to be shallow to say that everything is for the greater good. But there are, this could be managed if it is done in a responsible way.
I regret to say that I completely agree with you, Tony. Moving on, I would add to what you had to say.
You're going to be voting for Trump next time around?
Don't interrupt.
But actually, if you think about it, the top most trusted institution's military. He totally updated or reinvested our military, and then he is very hesitant, I would argue, to send troops in harm's way, because he doesn't think it's a good ROI. He loves small business, cut that tax down from 34 to 21, and he's a big fan of the police. So I think he's a smart man for politically.
I didn't get to the butt part. But if Steve Jobs had believed that the consumer will get what they want, he would have made a BlackBerry. It's real innovators figure out what they should want and then lead the company there. On things like facial recognition, your security story is very valid, but it isn't just security where facial recognition is coming in. Soon our TV will be watching us. They'll know when we're dozing off.
Already is. At least listening.
I don't know. I was sleeping when it happened in my house. But facial recognition is what employers will use, what teachers will use to see if the students who are wearing their AR or VR headsets, when the kid starts dozing off, they'll do a pop quiz.
It goes well beyond facial recognition, though. Yeah.
Yeah, it means that all of us, because of AI, face the danger of being manipulated emotionally the way Facebook is doing it today. and to a lesser degree, the way Google is doing it today. And these are two companies I respect, I hold stock positions in, and will continue to. Because right or wrong, good or bad, they're going to get money using this stuff. That's why they've invested billions in it.
We get a signal saying we need to wrap up. However, our previous session was extended, so give us some more time. And then we're having a great discussion. I actually really am interested in this conversation. Farshid, you mentioned about China, and then you have a very international perspective because of your background. And so do a lot of people on this panel, even for Americans, you do business with all over the world. So one argument is that if US don't invest in it, China would, or maybe Russia. Russia is not really in ahead of the game, so it's really right now US, China, and Israel. So if you look at that, if we don't invest in it, somebody else will, and then they would dominate the world. That's the biggest fear. We cannot really drill down that path. But if we, for the sake of time, if you are going to say something to the administrator, the people sitting in that Oval Office, what do you think they should be doing for the industry to encourage sustainable innovation in the space? Not necessarily just AI, but just encourage sustainable innovation so that the country can be competitive in the world.
To my current Oval Office, I would say, please get out.
I think they should be supportive. Although you talk about how bad Facebook is, but I know Facebook has already invested 1,000 people to working on this problem, right? So, at least they put money onto it. And there are many companies are not putting money. And the same for other big guys. So I think government need to be supportive of Silicon Valley. Meanwhile, also government should be, if the government is good, there are so many different governments, right? If the government is good, should also get involved. Sorry.
In what way?
Set up the right mechanism, incentive, so that the company can still survive. Like, and I think
safety net, social safety net. Is that what you mean, social safety net?
something like that. But I don't know the details. I think economists and the AI people should come together to design those and to make sure companies can still survive while meeting all the constraints from the government.
Okay, move on, let's move on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather, you're a sweetheart.
Theme music, I like it. I think America should lead this in, not necessarily on its own, but in collaboration. Absolutely. If we don't develop the students and the technology on our own, it will be developed somewhere else. I think it's better to have it and to not use it than to not have it.
If I were, I would recommend them to appoint Peter Thiel as the blockchain czar. It's interesting.
He does have existing relationship.
But again, if you look at China, is outlawed Bitcoin. They're afraid of crypto. They're afraid of blockchains. So the one other quick thing I wanted to tell you, the blockchain, people don't realize, the first blockchain application was Bitcoin, and Nakamoto Satoshi, or whatever his name is, the pseudonym, was inspired to create Bitcoin because he felt that the common man got screwed in the financial crisis. So he wanted to decouple currency from government.
Just a quick point again, I think democratizing education, the model from China, is very exclusive. It needs to be democratized. And also, we have always same thing happened with industrial revolutions. We have social classes. What Silicon Valley need to be replicated everywhere else. It cannot be centralized one place. You will have issues in the middle of a countries and areas that we see in China, that they move from the coast down to Wuhan's and deeper cities to get more people involved.
Basically, not just Silicon Valley. All right. Hey, everybody, please give great thanks to our stellar panel. Thank you.